Two.
Good morning, everyone. One more. Good morning, everyone. Yan, gising sila. Okay. Good morning, everyone. Once again, I'm Joanna Hardinil. I'll be your host and moderator for today's program. And welcome to the second plenary day of the 4th Philippine Parks Congress here in the Mine Museum, Main Plenary Hall, Bonifacio Global City. This event is presented to you by the National Parks Development Committee and is co-presented by Bonifacio Global City Estate Association and Clark Development Corporation in collaboration with Philippine Association of Landscape Architects, United Architects of the Philippines 4th Bonifacio Chapter, Planning and Development Research Foundation, PLANEDES, Urban Land Institute, ULI Philippines, and special thanks to Bonifacio Art Foundation Inc., Manila Canvas, and Department of Transportation for providing us free gift cards for the 50 early birds today. To jumpstart day 2, our plenary program, we now invite our speaker, who is the exhibit manager of the Bonifacio Art Foundation Inc. She has been overseeing exhibitions and the public art program of Bonifacio Global City since 2009. She leads the development, production, and maintenance of museum exhibitions at the Mine Museum and manages BGC's public art initiatives, including Art BGC. She plays a key role in shaping BGC into a dynamic open-air museum where art, learning, and green spaces enrich how people connect with the city and with one another. Ladies and gentlemen, let us all welcome Ms. Carol Tobias Pobre. Magandang umaga po! Ay, inaantok pa sila. Oo, sige. Isa pa. Magandang umaga po! Okay. Ready na tayo. Thank you for having us at the Philippine Parks Congress. I am Carol Pobre from the Bonifacio Art Foundation. Thank you, Joanne. Before I proceed, I would like to recognize the presence of Miss Ceci Lorenzana Romero, Executive Director, National Parks Development Committee, Mr. Jezreel Apelar, Chair, Philippine Parks Congress Committee. My co-presenters this morning, Mr. Pablo Vagion, did I? Asek Manuel Cabochan III, good morning. Mr. Charlie Rufino, our Tito Charlie, who's also our Board of Trustees from the Bonifacio Art Foundation. So good morning. Today, we're actually very excited to share how Art BGC, our public art program in Bonifacio Global City, has played a role in shaping walkable, bikeable, and inspiring urban environment. Just like landscape architect Joe Bim, who participates in the active mobility thing that he mentioned yesterday, I'm also an avid biker. I actually bike to work every day. Yes, I bike along C5, sir. And it's the fastest way of transportation. Before we proceed, allow me to introduce our organization. We are Bonifacio Art Foundation, Inc., a non-stock, non-profit organization that was set up in 1996 that champions arts and sciences to promote community and nation building through the following programs. First is Art BGC, the public art program of BGC for the visual arts through art installations and murals. We also have the BGC Art Center for the performing arts. And where we are now, the Mind Museum for the promotion of science literacy, and Mind School, an inspired learning space for science and art through shared learning in various platforms like TV. We're on Signal TV, by the way, and we're the #1 science show in the country. On YouTube, and as plug and play, plug and learn aligned with the K-12 curriculum. Let me begin with a question. What would our cities look like if creativity guided how people move as naturally as roads and pathways do? Imagine a place where art is part of your daily routine, something you encounter to your walk to work or during a week. What if public art could function like a park, open, communal, and accessible to everyone? GC, the public art program of Bonifacio Global City, run by Bafi. Our mission is simple: to make art an everyday experience for everyone, not just museum goers. Today, Art BGC shines with 55 murals, 30 art installations, and 110 street furniture. Over the years, BGC has evolved into an open-air museum. As mentioned by Seiya yesterday, BGC is a 15-minute walk city. Murals, sculptures, installations, and creative interventions have been integrated into streets, parks, and plazas. These artworks humanize the density of BGC, turning ordinary corners into meaningful landmarks and everyday routes into cultural experiences. Art BGC isn't just a collection of murals and installations. It's an entire ecosystem. We work on permanent sculptures, temporary installations, community art projects, brand collaborations, and creative events that activate public spaces. The goal is to create a living, breathing, cultural landscape that grows with the city. Our murals are curated and placed with intention. To illustrate our mural principles and guidelines, number one, artwork should be unbranded, non-political, and non-commercial. If people wanted to have an ad, they can go to EDSA. But here in BGC, artwork reigns. Second, should add texture and humanity to the BGC urban environment. Third, it should reflect the cosmopolitan quality of BGC. Fourth, it should respond to the specific location of the walls. It should also be sensitive to social context and social function of the space. And finally, it should leave those who encountered it with a positive and memorable impression. Public art plays an important role in what planners call green networks. Art creates cultural pathways, routes that encourage walking, slowing down, and exploring. Strategically placed artworks soften hard urban edges and invite people to linger. They enrich mobility by adding joy, meaning, and discovery to everyday moments. Here's an example showing the Passion Kilometer from Burgos Circle to Market Market. So yes, it's 1 kilometer that you can walk. It's filled with murals and installations. I believe in the workshop yesterday, one of the outputs or recommendations is to make the Passion Kilometer a truly open park and close to vehicular traffic. I don't know how that can be done, but perhaps it starts with a vision. So, what makes public art powerful is its accessibility. It's a great way of place making. Anyone can experience public art, whether you're a resident, a worker, a student, or a visitor. There are no doors, no tickets, no barriers. Hence, public art becomes a form of social glue or a social connector. It sparks curiosity, invites conversation, and strengthens community identity. When BGC is mentioned, what comes to your mind? Anyone? Yes? Business. What else? Pag na-mention ng BGC, hindi yung BGC DPWH boys ha. So we come to mind with all these installations, no? These, for example, have become landmarks in BGC. And so, community art is actually a vital part of Art BGC. An example is the BGC Tunnel of Passion done in 2024. During the BGC Passion Fest, it's a temporary art installation where the public co-created a bamboo tunnel that they helped build, decorate, and filled with handwritten messages and interactive art. No skills necessary. All it required was creativity and participation. There was no wrong way of building it and decorating it. Over the next months, it also continued to evolve. During Christmas, members of the community hang Christmas ornaments. During Valentine's and beyond, people got to write messages of love, hope, and dreams on bamboo note tags and sponsored by Pilot Pens and hang them on the tunnel, just like putting the love lock on the bridge in Paris or in the N Tower in Seoul, Korea. In summer, we filled it with hanging flowers in celebration of Flores de Mayo. Just before the recent typhoon, we dismantled it to make way for a new community bamboo art installation. And just this past weekend, during the Pinoy Playlist Music Festival that also coincided with this year's BGC Passion Fest, we also launched Aranya at Kuliling, the Filipino term for chandeliers and chimes. These were made out of bamboo that we harvested from Greenway Linear Park with the help of my friend Raymond Sunga over there. And of course, JSA. Thank you so much. So you see, you don't need to go far to make use of what you have right here. We got lots of bamboo here in BGC, so why not use them, right? So these were actually inspired by a maker kit that we had here at the Mind Museum of polyhedrons. What are polyhedrons? So these are various geometric shapes in math, because math is the language of science, right? And so we thought,
Okay, why not prototype these in actual scale here at the museum so people have something to see and follow? And so during the weekend, people came and they assembled and painted these Aranya at Koliling at the Alveo Central Plaza of BGC Art Center. Next week, we will be lighting them up so that they glow at night, and the art installation will be on display for 6 months to a year. And all the participants were saying that they have this bragging rights to say they have an art installation in BGC. You see, community art transforms spaces with people, not just for them. It shows that creativity is not exclusive, it is participatory. It builds ownership, pride, and connection. And it reminds us that public art is not only something to look at, but something to be part of. These photos shown here actually are yet another set of bamboo art installations that I designed during the Boni Viva Luci Light Festival last May. Again, we had BGC residents join us in the build. And by now you might have known, bamboo is my favorite material. We collaborate with a wide range of artists, local and international muralists, sculptors, installation artists, and designers. Each artist brings a unique perspective, but the common thread is this. They engage deeply with the context of BGC, the stories, architecture, people, and environment to create works that resonate with the community. At the bottom photos here are actually the mural called Beyond Borders Peaceful Voyage we had in 2017 in collaboration with the Korean Cultural Center and about a dozen ASEAN artists. We actually had 50 Filipino volunteer muralists going up this 8th floor building, which is now covered by the Pioneer Insurance Building, sadly, along 5th and 26th Avenue. The mural is still there, but you have to look at the side to be able to see remnants of it. One of the key part of Art BGC's success is partnership. Our long-standing collaboration with Boysen Paints is critical. Boysen supports all the murals and street art in BGC, providing durable, high-quality paint and technical expertise. This ensures that artwork remain vibrant despite weather, exposure, and time. It is a model for how private sector partnerships can sustain public art. Another exciting partnership is with Uniqlo recently. So recently, artworks by our BGC mural artists were featured in a new Uniqlo collection when they opened in November 7. This collaboration brought the creativity of our public spaces into fashion, making local art visible and wearable on a global platform. It shows how public art can influence culture far beyond the district. Behind every artwork is a rigorous process. We begin with the curatorial planning and site selection, studying pedestrian flow, context, and the urban fabric. We match artists to sites, coordinate with technical requirements, secure permits, and work closely with building owners and the different departments of the BGC group of companies. We manage permit applications, fabrication, installation, logistics, safety, and community engagement. And equally important, we take care of the artworks long term. When these do not look good anymore, then it's time that we change them. Public art must not only be memorable and interesting, it must also be smart. We consider sunlight, heat, rain, and wind. We look at different vantage points and accessibility. We ensure materials are durable and safe. We integrate artworks into existing and future green and open space networks. That is what makes public art function well in a real urban environment. So let me share a few examples. Some murals and installations have become orientation points and landmarks, places where people would say, let's meet by the astronaut mural, or by the tree in Burgos Circle, or what they call Papa Bear, the one on the lower right. It's actually called Teen Stage instead of Papa Bear, but people call it Papa Bear anyways. Sculptures have activated plazas and created new gathering spots. Temporary festival installations have brought families, artists, and visitors together in ways that strengthen community bonds. These projects show how art transforms not just spaces, but behavior. The impact is measurable and visible. Art-rich areas draw more foot traffic. People feel more welcomed and connected. Workers take walking breaks, families explore, people photograph and learn. Art makes the mundane or the ordinary and sometimes unsightly look more interesting and turn pathways into experiences. So, looking here now at the photos, we show examples of how we turned non-working fire hydrants into Star Wars inspired droids and different sorts of artworks. Like you see here on the top left, the earrings of the Lagang Pilipina is actually a fire hydrant as well, including this one in the middle that we turned into a washing machine. Even this control panel into Japanese dolls along Burgos Circle. And these pedestrian crosswalk at the British School Manila were turned into lion paws to make crossing less scary and fun for students. Even the bollards are shown as BG citizens. And this control box crossing from Serendra to fully booked is turned into Nuno ng Punso. How do you say that in English? An elf or a dwarf? Because we have this culture here in the Philippines that when you cross, you say, tabi-tabi po, or like, may I cross please? Something like that. So in essence, public art makes BGC feel less like a business district and more like a community. So over the years, across more than 25 years that BAFI has existed, we've learned a few important things. Number one, collaboration is essential across artists, partners, property owners, and the community. Second, technical planning must be strong. It must be robust, but invisible. You don't see them, right? Accessibility builds cultural equity. Maintenance preserves value. And above all, public art is not a one-off project. It is an ongoing commitment to building a better city. We're excited actually for what comes next in BGC. We are expanding cultural pathways, creating more walkable art corridors. We're developing new murals and sculptural trails. We're planning more participatory and community-based installations. And we are exploring regenerative materials and sustainable creative practices, like the use of bamboo, which is actually my favorite material of all. All of these continue our commitment to art that is meaningful, inclusive, and future forward. Our vision is simple yet ambitious, a more livable, inclusive, and inspiring BGC, where art connects people, pathways, and public spaces. A city where creativity is not an afterthought, but part of its identity and its infrastructure. Public art is more than decoration. It shapes how people feel, how they move, and how they connect. We invite you all to explore BGC, collaborate with us, and imagine how creativity can transform your own communities and parks. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Miss Carol, for your insightful presentation. We appreciate the meaningful perspectives you shared, very artful, inspiring work that continues to shape creative and community-centered spaces in BGC. If you have any questions for Miss Carol and other speakers, please take note of them first and reserve them for later's Q&A session. Up next, we are honored to welcome our speaker, who is a senior urban development specialist with a master's degree from Harvard University. He brings over 25 years of global experience in delivering advisory services across the full urban project life cycle. He currently serves as the team leader of the Asian Development Bank's Livable Cities Technical Assistance, and previously he headed the UN Habitat Office for Mexico and Cuba, and authored Urban Planning for City Leaders, a key guidebook for mayors published by the United Nations. Throughout his career, he has advised the World Bank, governments, private sector groups, and think tanks, such as Singapore Center for Livable Cities. He also served as the Secretary General of the International Society of City and Regional Planners. Please join me in welcoming Mr. Pablo Vagioni. Let us give him a warm round of applause.
Very good morning. First of all, thank you so much to the National Parks Development Group. Very pleased to be here. I appreciate the invitation. Also, very honored to share the panel with Madame Carol Tobias from Buffy, and also ASIC Manuel. Looking forward to the presentation. Dear colleagues and friends, all protocols observed. Good morning again. My name is Pablo Vagione. I'm an urban development specialist. As I've been introduced, thank you for that introduction. One of my current roles is I'm a team leader of a technical assistance called Livable Cities from the Asian Development Bank. And as part of that, we're working with a public space framework, which I'm going to tell you about in the next few slides. Before I go on, I just wanted to get a feel of the audience. How many of you here work at a local government or at other instances of government? If you can raise your hand. About 15%, 20%? How many of you work in as an individual practice, Office of Landscape or Architecture or Planning? How many of you work in the private sector? Developers? About 5%. Thanks for that. That's very illustrative. So I'm going to talk to you about today I'm going to make the case of green public spaces as assets for livability. Yeah. And my presentation is going to have three basic points. The first one is I'm going to show you a few slides to make the case of public space as an asset for livability. Second, I'm going to show you some slides from our ongoing work at Asian Development Bank. You will yet be published. So please bear with us as we present slides that are not fully disclosable. And I'm going to close it off with some takeaway messages. The first point is this is one of the most recognizable green public spaces that you can think of. It's so recognizable that it has contributed to the reputation of the city where it is. It's difficult to think of New York and not think of the Central Park. It is difficult to think of Central Park and not think of New York. So you think how green spaces, well-maintained and well-planned green spaces really contribute to the reputation, to the status of the city. Now think if Central Park would not exist. What will be your perception of New York? Completely different. Yeah? Central Park, we have to recognize, is a key asset of livability and also reputation within New York City. And what was important is that in 1858, a group of people, planners, politicians, decision makers, agree on allocating 341 hectares. 341 hectares. That is about 150% larger than the whole of Bonifacio Global City. Yeah? Of Manhattan to say green area, public. That was a daring decision at the time. And today, a few years later, we can say it's paid off. First of all, because it has contributed to New York City's global reputation and status. It has elevated the city's profile in terms of tourism and economic activity, not to mention the value of the properties next to the park. It has provided a cultural legacy and social identity. Two numbers to think of: 42 million visits annually and financial impacts of about 1 activity around it. If the slides are circulated, you will notice that on smaller print there's a lot of bibliography and materials where you can read more about it. So the point of creating public space as a critical asset has 3 points. First, I wouldn't like to decouple green spaces from economic development. They're not right. Green public space can provide economic or support economic growth through property value uplift and local enterprise and tourism. I have made the case already that social inclusion is a key outcome of public spaces, and for issues as environments for recreation, culture, and community life. And the third point is on climate resilience. Public space can be supportive of reduction of urban heat island effects, also controlling and mitigating. Key point that from ADB is that cities that prioritize public space achieve higher quality of life. Let me give you a couple of slides on the economic case. Property near green spaces command price premiums, and that has been quantified in several studies at a range between 5 to 20%. Immediately adjacent to parks, 5 to 20% premium, 2-3 blocks away, 5 to 10%. So there you see the economic impact of well-maintained and well-designed public spaces into property development and property value. And of course, that has an incidence in tax revenues, because higher property values that are well managed, and if municipalities have nice cadastres, can generate increased property tax income. Case in Philadelphia, parks added about 220 million in increased asset property value, and they generate about 18 million in annual property tax revenue. With that 18 million that parks generate in property tax revenue, that's the cost, the capital and OPEX cost of the parks. Yeah. So two factors affecting premium, and Carol mentioned this: maintenance. Well-maintained parks increase value, but this is a double-sided sword. Poorly maintained parks decrease value. So if you're going to build a park, make sure that you have the OPEX well calculated before you start the design. Because if you build a beautiful park and do not maintain it, is the most terrible thing that you can do. Is you've heard of a broken window syndrome, right? Same thing as with a badly maintained park. And the second point of factors affecting premium is the type of park. Passive parks with mature vegetation show higher premiums than other parks with which, let's say, less mature vegetation. So it's important to time off the planting of parks, of the vegetation and the vegetable patterns. Second point of economic impact of public spaces is tourism. Singapore garden, green spaces are major tourist attractions. An example of this is Singapore Gardens by the Bay, 10 million visitors in 2023, 700 million tourism receipts over 10 years. I didn't put it there in the slide, but anybody knows what was the cost of Gardens by the Bay? 1 billion. Basically, in 10 to 13 years, it has been paid off. That's a huge return. Yeah. So think of those numbers. In London, green spaces contribute to 14.2 billion pounds, and this is another statistic. If you want to think larger systems at the national park level, in the US, the national park system produces 26.4 billion spending around national parks. So huge case. Also, and I think I've made this point when I was spoken about Central Park, is that green public spaces create destination image, contribute to the overall brand of a city, enhance its appeal, and attract visitors interested in culture, aesthetics, and usually forward thinking. Think of Singapore. You might remember that in 1965, there was a strategy actually prepared by the UN Agency for Singapore Economic Development, and the strategy recommended Singapore to focus on, say, low-value industry. They have come a long way. And from that idea of low-value industry to city in a garden, there's a huge change of strategy. And think of how Singapore considers green public space as a key asset in developing this strategy, this reputation, this aura of a forward-thinking and advanced place. So advanced places, also technologically advanced places, consider green public spaces as an asset. I think I already spoke about green spaces. I have a couple of slides on the social case and also on the environmental case. We spoke about social cohesion. Green public spaces offer territory for people to gather and build relationships. This leads to a greater sense of belonging and community trust. And I didn't mention this, but well-maintained parks gain votes. So if anybody here is from a local government making political decisions, green public spaces generate votes. Remember that. Shared identity, well-maintained, are a source of community pride, shared identity ownership, and increased equity. Think of public spaces as the nice living room that some people do not have in their homes. That's a place where people can gather, spend time in peace, picnics with children. And that is a way to increase equity in low, underprovided neighborhoods. And of course, public spaces are associated with public health, as they induce physical activity, increase recreation, respiratory health benefits, avoided mental illnesses, and thermal comfort. In terms of climate resilience, there's a linkage of public space with reduction of urban flood risk if they are well designed and they serve as flood retention and infiltration capacity. They mitigate urban heat island effects. That is a growing concern. You've seen that temperature is rising every day. Think of your cities in the next 20 to 30 years. It's demonstrated that green public spaces and trees lower temperature. So fantastic asset for fighting the urban heat island effects. And of course, they serve as carbon storage, and they provide ecosystem services, including air and water purification and climate regulation, and of course, biodiversity corridors, facilitating the movement of species and so on. So some of the conclusions of the first part. In developing green public spaces, the public sector is or has to be in the driving seat, creating public investment and planning, creating the conditions for broader urban development. Think of that strategic placement of green public spaces shapes city growth patterns. And that strategic approach to public spaces has to include the provision of incentives for privately owned public spaces as well. Not all public access spaces are owned by a municipality. Some of them are owned by private institutions, but they provide access in exchange to possibly some series of incentives. But that has to be structured by say the regulator, because the market alone, there's no evidence anywhere that the market alone provides adequate green public spaces. Now, governments need to think of green public space as seed capital for urban development. And one key point for governments, and I think for all of us interested in this, is to have reliable data about green public spaces. You might remember Mayor Bloomberg from New York. I'm sure you all remember him. First thing when he got into power, he said, you can't manage what you don't know. Yeah. So having data about green public spaces is very important. And also, it's very important to debunk some unfunded citations about, all of you that work in landscape or green public spaces have heard about the standard of 9 square meters of the World Health Organization. Raise your hand if you have heard about this standard. You were curious to know that that standard is a myth. It does not exist. Right? In any publication you think of, search on the internet, ask ChatGPT or Claude or Perplexity or whoever about a standard of 9 square meters of the World Health Organization, and it's widely published. If you write the World Health Organization, they tell you that they never said that. That report does not exist, so it's a myth. 9 square meters is actually very low to start with. That's something we need to remember. So initial public investment in green spaces catalyzes private development. We have to think that there's a relation there, because it attracts increases the value of the As conclusions, green public spaces are livability assets that require deliberate planning and investment. Green public spaces do not grow by themselves. Yeah, they're not spontaneous. They have to be planned. They have to be well thought of. And we have to think of them as not as an expenditure or a loss of land development opportunity, but as a strategic investment that pays off. Cities that underutilize these assets miss significant economic, social, environmental returns. And although green public spaces are spearheaded normally by the public sector through planning and incentives, the private sector has critical influence on implementation. We made the point of managing as public spaces require reliable data and making sure that there's OPEX for maintenance is essential. As remember this thought of a double-sided sword, well-maintained public spaces increase value, badly maintained public spaces decrease it. And people prefer green spaces with mature vegetation, which means the time to plant is now. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Bagioni, for sharing your valuable insights today. The depth of your program, we are pleased to welcome our next speaker, who is the Assistant Secretary for Special Concerns at the Department of Transportation. He also serves as the officer in charge of the Office of the Undersecretary for Internal and Audit Special Concerns. A proud member of the Philippine Military Academy Marilag class of 1995, he graduated with a bachelor's degree in Naval Systems Engineering before serving in the Philippine Navy from 1995 to 2008. He later earned his master's degree in government management from Pamantasan ng Lungsod ng Maynila and went on to serve in leadership and advisory positions in both the Philippine Senate and House of Representatives from 2010 to 2024. Today, he brings his experience as a soldier, a reform advocate, and legislative leader into his role at the Department of Transportation. Please join me in welcoming Assistant Secretary Manuel G. Cabuchan III.
Hi everyone, good morning. Before I start with my presentation, please allow me to thank the National Parks Development Committee, Executive Director Madam Cecile Lorenzana Romero, Operations Superintendent Sir Beo Bensurto, my co-speakers, colleagues and co-workers in government, and the Clark Development Corporation, the Mind Museum, and the Bonifacio Global City for inviting the Department of Transportation to share our piece in this 4th Philippine Parks Congress. Thank you very much and congratulations to everyone here today. It is a great honor and privilege to speak before you. And yes, I am DOTR's Assistant Secretary for Special Concerns. So please allow me to be guided by the paper in front of me, or else multiple concerns will be shared unto you, and I may go out of topic and this Congress will go awry. So I will restrain myself to our theme, Green Networks, Parks, Pathways, People. That is PPP. That is one thing we need. For me, that is private-public partnership for green networks. To interconnect our green spaces, we have to get our acts together. And with the support of everyone, I have no doubt that we can get things done. Let me first walk you through the points I want to make this morning. We will take a look at the following: the existing framework and programs that guide us in building transport infrastructure, who and what are the policy-making bodies, and your Department of Transportation. A quick look at the role of the department in green cities. Remind everyone of the current traffic and transport situation, especially in the metro. Share our DOTR initiatives and what have we done so far, and give you a summary of all this. First, our key national frameworks and programs. The Philippine Development Plan is the country's medium-term blueprint that outlines the government's development priorities, strategies, and targets over a 6-year period. For the Philippine Development Plan 2004 to 2010, expansion of road infrastructure and improvement of national road networks. 2011 to 2016, inclusive growth and sustainable development. 2017 to 2022, building a high-trust, resilient society and a globally competitive economy. The COVID pandemic accelerated the mainstreaming of active transport in the country as mobility restrictions and public health concerns reshaped our travel behavior. The Philippine Development Plan 2023 to 2028 reinforces the shift towards sustainable and inclusive mobility by making active transport a policy priority. It promotes people-centered mobility, integrates public transport with public transit, links active mobility to climate resilience, health, and equity, encourages investments in infrastructure and end-of-trip facilities. We also have the National Transport Policy, which contains the guidelines and methodologies in the operationalization of the strategies and intended policy reforms in the transport sector. The NTP was adopted in 2017 and its IRR issued in 2018. The transport vision is to have safe, secured, efficient, integrated, intermodal, affordable, cost-effective, environmentally sustainable, and people-oriented national transport system that ensures improved quality of life of the people. For our policy-making bodies, we have the Economic Development Council, which is formerly the NEDA Board. Infrastructure Development Committee, or the INFRACOM, which formulates and recommends policies, programs, and projects for infrastructure development. Interagency Technical Committee on Transport Planning. It is the technical arm of the INFRACOM on transport planning and policy formulation. And we also have the Investment Coordinating Committee. They are the ones on top. And now we go to the Department of Transportation. Your DOTR is responsible for the maintenance and expansion of viable, efficient, dependable, and coordinated network of transportation systems as effective instruments for national recovery and economic progress. It is responsible for the country's land, sea, air transportation infrastructure. But for today, I will limit my presentation to the pivotal role of transport in shaping livable and green cities. Having said that, the department is guided by the nationally determined contributions according to the country's commitment under the Paris Agreement. We are committed to support people-centered green urban mobility by actively promoting sustainable transport in alignment with the priorities of the national government and our international climate partners. These efforts focus on reducing carbon emissions. We encourage walking and cycling to reduce reliance on fossil fuel transport. We promote integrating urban resilience and nature-based solutions into infrastructure development, advancing inclusive growth to ensure no one is left behind. We are also adopting new technologies to enhance energy efficiency in transport facilities and public spaces. Collectively, these priorities define the department's key role in shaping livable, resilient, and sustainable cities and communities. Before I present our major initiatives that emphasize the importance of transport sector in greening networks, let me take you to a quick view of the current traffic and transport situation, especially in the metro. First, insufficient public transport. Despite the need for mass transportation, for the longest time, our system was limited in reach, unreliable, uncomfortable, and overcrowded, which pushed commuters towards private vehicle ownership. So we became car-centric. Our transport crisis stems from decades of car-centric policies and planning, which favored road widening and expressways over active transport and integrated public transport. We have prioritized private vehicles over public and mass transportation, contributing to unsustainable urban development and traffic congestion. It is not new to us that Metro Manila has one of the worst traffic conditions in the world. Imagine, our travel time is around 26 minutes per 10 kilometers, leading to economic losses of around 3.5 billion pesos per day. And by projections, it will rise to 5.4 billion daily by 2035. Outdated infrastructure. Many roads are in poor condition with inadequate maintenance. We have broken sidewalks, disconnected bike lanes, unprotected walkways, and fragmented land use planning. And with that, using my lenses in transportation, let me humbly admit that in our transport sector, coordination and governance are in fragments. DOTR, MMDA, DPWH, and DILG have primary roles, and coordination with the LGUs remain a challenge, leading to inconsistent policy implementations. And the impact of all this, our commuters avoid public transport entirely. Increased vehicle use contributes to air pollution, leading to health problems and environmental degradation. The national government agencies know that this time we have to work closely together. As the transport sector is the third largest source of greenhouse gas emissions, the department, working closely with its attached and sectoral agencies as well as stakeholders, has developed a set of policies and measures aimed at mitigating these emissions. Guided by the Avoid, Shift, Improve framework, these PAMs are designed to systematically reduce carbon output and improving existing systems through cleaner technologies, energy sufficiency, and innovative infrastructure. These emphasize the shift to more sustainable modes such as walking, cycling, and the use of public transport. We would like to highlight two priority measures. One, promoting non-motorized transport. We are developing bikeways and greenways whenever possible to promote commuting to work or school. And two, planning for an integrated transport system. We are developing multimodal connections by linking road-based and rail transport services, providing park and ride facilities, as well as clustering urban facilities along transport hubs. Our challenge is not about building more infrastructures, but ensuring that what is built connects with how people live. Our transit-oriented development initiatives form part of the measure planning for an integrated transport system. Within our NDC, this aligns with the Avoid strategy, which seeks to reduce unnecessary trips while enabling seamless transfers between transport modes. TOD significantly contributes to emission reduction by promoting high-density, mixed-use development near or around mass transit transit stations by reducing the distance between homes, jobs, and services. TOD lowers reliance on private vehicles, leading to significant cuts in greenhouse gas emissions from the transport sector. It strengthens climate resilience and enhances the effectiveness of sustainable transport. We are serious in the promotion of active mobility, construction, maintenance, and improvement of various active transport infrastructure and facilities such as protected bike lanes and pedestrian walkways, bike racks, end-of-trip cycling and support facilities are being done to pave the way for the smooth integration and interconnectivity between active and public transport. We are keen on the establishment of PUV stops across key locations for improved commuter experience. Stops are eco-friendly, well-equipped for inclusivity, safety, and security through the provision of benches, PW-friendly ramps, tactile pavements, PUV route and information panels, CCTV cameras, and reliable lighting systems, as well as charging stations and bike repair stations for cyclists. As we implement these measures, we acknowledge that there are gaps and issues like those mentioned earlier and the ones we see during planning. Yes, they all need to be addressed. We also recognize the important roles of the various government agencies and offices and stakeholders to further ensure the accomplishment of our goals in enhancing an active travel. As such, the department has undertaken the formulation of the Active Transport Strategic Master Plan, which aims to develop a comprehensive guiding document for various government agencies concerned, particularly in the local government units, in the planning, implementation, operations and maintenance, and evaluation of all active transport infrastructure projects. The department has undergone consultation meetings, focus group discussions, household interviews, and roadside surveys to gather baseline information and existing conditions of active mobility. Our aim is to complete this master plan, hopefully, by the second quarter of 2026. So what have we done so far? Or can we expect to see in the near future? Let me share to you some of our projects. Those near completion, like the Quezon City Elliptical Road Active Transport, the Muntinlupa Road Safety Park. For construction are Bacoor Cycleways, which is in itself a linear park, Iloilo Active Transport Project, Antipolo Cycleway, Baguio City Active Transport Infrastructure, Oriental Mindoro Active Transport Infrastructure, Carmona Linear Park, Quezon Avenue Cycleways, and the ones in the pipeline, meaning to be further defined under the Active Transport Strategic Master Plan, additional Iloilo Active Transport Project, Zamboanga to be connected to Park Sports Complex. To synthesize my presentation, I would like to highlight how the department's effort connect people, parks, and pathways in the advancing sustainable living. Parks, the transit-oriented development integrates green spaces that absorb carbon, provide recreation, and enhance urban resilience. Pathways, active mobility flourishes on safe, connected routes that link communities to transit and nature. People, both transit-oriented developments and active mobility prioritize accessibility, inclusivity, and healthier lifestyles. Together, these three elements form an interconnected system. By greening our networks and surroundings, the department reaffirms its commitment to supporting these initiatives and driving progress toward our sustainable goal. Green networks, parks, pathways, people, PPP, our own public-private partnership. Let us get our acts together. Let us all be part of our Department of Transformation. Again, I am Assistant Secretary Manuel Cabuchan. That's it from your Department of Transportation. To everyone, thank you and congratulations for this fourth Philippine Parks Congress. Thank you. Mabuhay po.
Thank you, Asek Kabuchan, for your meaningful discussion. Your perspective shed important light on how transport systems contribute to building livable and environmentally sustainable cities. And to award our token of appreciation, we request NPDC Executive Director Cecil A. Lorenzana Romero and NPDC Deputy Executive Director Jesril Gayus A. Pilar on stage. Thank you, Asek Manny. For our next session, we invite our next speaker on stage, who is the president of NEO. He also currently serves as the chairman of Threadborn Group, the director and JV partner of Digital Edge Philippines Incorporated, and a member of the board of trustees of De La Salle College of St. Benilde. He was awarded the Asia CEO Entrepreneurial Leadership Team of the Year in 2011 and has been involved in various real estate development projects such as the Bonifacio Global City, Master Plan, and BGC Infrastructure, Pacific Plaza Towers, and Corinthian Gardens, among others. Currently, he is working on the Nara 1, the first data center in the Philippines, located in Una Technopark. He served as the past president of Forbes Park Association, Manila Polo Club, and the Rotary Club of Makati, among others. He holds a degree in liberal arts and commerce from De La Salle University, where he also completed his primary and secondary education. Please join me in welcoming Mr. Charlie S. Rufino. Let's give him a round of applause.
Good morning, our good friends. Welcome to BGC. This is one of your several days here, and I'm sure it's going to be a fruitful experience. So as a background, I was involved with Fort Bonifacio from the year 1995 to 2000. So it's the first 5 years of Bonifacio, and we just celebrated our 30th anniversary from 1995. So without much further ado, I'd like to go straight into our presentation. But before that, I have to thank Cecil and Jess, who are the forefront of an organization which I had in Manila called the Urban Land Institute, which is part of the US think tank for real estate. So thank you very much. They were the forefront, just a few years ago, like 10. All right, so my topic is about parks for people. Can you press this? Maybe they can just do it from there. Can I just signal my slide? So while waiting for the slides, I just wanted to mention how a specific instance of how public spaces in Bonifacio is interwoven into the master plan. When the bid for Bonifacio was won, we sent a team of 13 people from our Bonifacio group. It included the UP Urban Planning Dean, Stea Santiago, and we visited 8 countries in 13 days to see what was the best of the best in that time. So that was 1995. So we had the opportunity of being supported by the Spanish government, the UK government, the French government. So we got a chance to take a look at the parks, Versailles, Lanotte, the very famous architect that planned the green spaces. We had a chance to take a look at Barcelona, the Ramblas, and the development of the Olympic City. And we got a lot of feedback from that, which we tried to incorporate into Bonifacio. So maybe if we have the first slide. Oh, okay. This is the middle of the. Okay, so maybe let's start with this slide that is on. So this is, there we are. All right. BGC Greenway and Neo Park will be specific instances of the interplay between the BGC, its developers, and its communities. So the BGC Greenway on the left, as you can see, is a collaborative effort. It started with a 50-50 sharing with Meralco. They retired a power right-of-way along the Manila Golf Course, so that's 1.5 kilometers long. They retired the power line and put it underground. So thank you very much for that. The cost was shared by Fort Bonifacio when I was in charge and Meralco. And from there, it's a series of joint venture agreements where we shared with the community 50%, the concrete and the asphalt and the lights were paid by Bonifacio. The greenways were paid through a consortium formed by the Rotary Club of Makati and the Rotary Club of Taguig. So they can issue tax-free certificates. So it's very important when you talk about working with the private sector. This is like private to private, but there must be something which attends to the both the requirements for community and also requirements for them hitting their financial goals. So we will also talk about our project Neo Park, which is an adopt a park project. Next, please. So the Greenway, as we can see, was formerly a national power, no, excuse me, a Meralco right of way, and we were very lucky. We had an urban planner, but he was based in Miami. He's a Filipino American, but now he's very famous for doing a lot of sculptures all around Manila, like the Victor in Bridgetown, etc. But on his way, we hired him, and he on his way to the Philippines, while he's on the plane from Miami, he drew a sketch of what the Greenway could look like from original. So what happened was that we submitted this, and Jess knows, thank you very much. We submitted to the Urban Land Institute, and we started with it, winning a $25,000 urban development grant. From that concept picture, it was just a sketch on a napkin from the airplane. We won the award. We got $25,000, and we said, what are we going to do with this? So we hired planners, and then we presented it to Fort Bonifacio, and we had a very concrete offer. You pay for, as I said, the hardscape. We'll take care of the landscape. So next, please. Next, please. Can we have the next slide? Okay, so the Greenway is important for us because it's 1.5 kilometers long. It's probably the longest Greenway in terms of pathways. It's also lends itself to including all the parks that we had alongside the Greenway. So we incorporated Kasalikasan Park and other areas that we have which connected them to the city. Next, please. So what we wanted to do really was to extend these greenways later on. There's a huge Senate building that's being put up about 4 kilometers away. So our 1.5 kilometer greenway will connect to the Senate building, and we're working the right of way. It's again a continuance of the private to private partnership that we have. So we opened this in 2016. It's a continuous shaded route running along Manila Golf. It crosses McKinley Road, which is our big issue because joggers don't like to wait for cars that are crossing. And it will extend all the way to connect nature, movement, and community into the heart of BGC. Next, please. So how do we do this? So we have BGCEA, the association, BGC, the global city. What we did was very nice. So as we gave naming rights on your tower, maybe you like to have a name on the greenway. So all of these people paid the other 30 million that was needed to landscape and beautify the greenway. So this is again very interesting names. You have AIA, a very big insurance company, BDO, one of the largest banks. Dimensional is actually a construction group, property brokers, my company Neo, Transnational, a big tenant, and the Philippine Stock Exchange. So here we are with the Rotary Club and also with BGC during the start of the project. So we do plaques around the area to commemorate our donors, and every 5 years we renew the sponsorship agreement. So as I said, it's one of the longest parks in Metro Manila. And when it reaches the end of the Senate building, plus another 4 kilometers, it will be an end-to-end solution connecting with the Japanese subway in the Senate. So it's the first time you're going to connect a greenway with a underground subway. So every day we've noticed, originally what was thought was people may not appreciate the greenway, but as was mentioned earlier, the High Line in New York and other projects have increased the value of property next to it. And we do appreciate that in every single instance here, every building next to it has contributed power, lighting, and support. So we are so happy that this very much a community engagement. Next, please. So as we say, parks are the city's green heart. We pump life into every corner. Next, please. And this is an instance of our special adopter park. It's our own Neo Park at the 7 Neo, one of our 7 buildings in Bonifacio. So what has happened here is that when Bonifacio was designed, it was a grid system connecting with a circle system. So we had a lot of small crescent parks. And the small crescent parks, rather than being left to Bonifacio to maintain, we had the idea, why don't we get the developer right next to the park to adopt it? So there is a sharing agreement on the use of the park. The park proponent pays for everything on the park. So here is what we did with the parks. We do have benches. Would you believe people use that because it's in shade during most of the day? And we have done a lot of things here. We have pavers, which are actually made from extra Tetra Pak recycled packages. So its perforations allow water to come all the way to the ground, to the aquifer. Next, please. And we have the program, as we said, the Adopt a Park means that the developer pays the 100% of the park design construction. We are able to lift the valuation to a high amenity asset. We drive appreciation of adjacent parcels. We do marketing and co-branding. So as we said, that the different sponsors we have love to have their name on a very small plaque, and their names are done very neatly. We don't allow any blatant visual advertising. There's already too much of that. People want to walk in a restful atmosphere and not be besieged with the visual pollution. And as was mentioned by our speaker from the ADB, thank you very much, control and maintenance is so expensive. So while FBDC retains the full ownership and control, we who adopt the park are responsible for utility features and service as maintenance backdrop. Since we're right next to the park, we can easily maintain it, and we see every day the things that are needed. Next, please. So more visuals about our park. This was designed by the same planner who drew the thing on the napkin. So this is his design, and we have parts of the from Barcelona. You have the very famous mosaic. So we have a mosaic for people to rest, so they can lean back and rest. But luckily, they don't rest all day. Next, please. Next, please. So again, this comes from our recycled tiles that we came from our building. So we cut it up and put it into a pattern. And we have to thank our architect for doing that as a labor of love. Next, please. So as I mentioned, Jeffrey is now very famous, helped us with the conceptualization of this. Next, please. How parks create wellness. Next, please. So we see that the park is actually very used. Got 300,000 views in YouTube when they were trying to do a documentary about Bonifacio. People love walking in a linear area. The only wish they have is the 1.5 kilometers is not long enough. They want us to extend it further. So that's the next plan. Next, please. And space to breathe, recharge, experience nature in the middle of the city. We want Bonifacio to always be leading in terms of advocating what we think are best practices. And changing idle properties or properties. This was the back of the house. It was in a very bad state because nobody walked there, nobody cared for it. It was like a Meralco power right of way that was abandoned. But now look at this. It's a vibrant heart of a city because people use that. Thousands of people are able to use that during the week. Moving from it's also a shortcut to go to your office. Then creating community and connection. So we do have very careful maintenance there. So we do have people who monitor the trash. You have to take care of the poop from your dog. You have to be very sure about that. And again, the connectedness. This is a very interesting location because if we have an earthquake in Fort Bonifacio, we have to exit through this park, and on the left side is Manila Golf. So in case of earthquake, you have to reach this linear park, which extends all of the 1.5 kilometers. Cross this park, which is going to be done in about the next year. We have a deal with Manila Golf. We're going to house in Manila Golf 42 hectares. A lot of the people in BGC, in any case that we get a great big disaster. So this walk is not only linear, it's not only sustainable, it's also for resiliency. It is our earthquake evacuation path, and it's very easy to get to. Get to the linear park, get to this corner where we will put a gate into Manila Golf, and you can stay there for the next 72 hours until help comes from government offices or whatever. So very much it's being used for and activated. Next, please. So shared spaces coming together, interact, a sense of belonging. We feel that Bonifacio is very good in doing community. As you know, the design of the streets in Bonifacio is mixed use. So you have an office on one side, a residential. It's never dark throughout the day because people live, work, and play in the area. And the belonging, all of this is possible because the community is very active. Every single thing here, every single incident gets noted and by a neighborhood committee and reported to Bonifacio City Estate Association. So I'd like to end by mentioning our inspiration when we did BGC. We go back to Daniel Burnham, who, as you know, is the city planner of Manila and Baguio. And this is his exhortation for architects who are aspiring. It says, make no little plans. They have no magic to steer men's blood. Make big plans, aim high in hope and work. So this is a short version of that, but we very much believe we have a red book on Bonifacio. It's our master planning book. We spent the equivalent of, before we broke ground, we spent about 1 billion pesos in soft costs. So a great project means you do great planning. So that book is like a Bible. It's pretty tattered. It's 30 years old. I have a copy of it in the office, and it explains the whole concept and principle. Because at the end of the day, the most important thing we learn from that book is vision. You have to have a vision. When you say Bonifacio is going to be a world global city, you're aiming for the stars. I mean, nobody thought at that time that Bonifacio could aspire to be that, but we are getting there. So we'd like to say that the next issue for us for parks, etc., and we're trying to do this with our community, whether it's Manila Golf to give us some space for a greenway, in other areas, all the way to the Senate, many developers are giving us access through their areas for the greenway. It really starts with a common vision. And with a common vision, you can achieve greatness. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Pablo Vagioni and Mr. Charlie Rufino. Please join me on stage. We now open the floor for your questions. So feel free to raise your hands if you have any questions po. Yes, sir. We have a question here po.
Please state your name, designation, and organization.
Hello. Hello. Can you hear me? Yeah. So, good morning. I'm Nestor from the University of Makati School of Law. Um, First of all, of course, congratulations to the wonderful presentation that all of three of you have presented a while ago. My question is about replicating the initiatives that you have presented here in the forum. Um, how how do you think we would be able to implement this art and park design to different cities elsewhere outside BGC? Thank you.
Any one of you would like to answer the question of how do we replicate all of these efforts and initiatives that we've been doing here in Global City?
Okay, thank you for that question. That question is actually asked of us all the time at Bonifacio Art Foundation. How do we replicate public art in different cities? The first, I think, is willpower. Without willpower and the vision that Sir Charlie mentioned, this will be nothing. And aside from that willpower, you have to identify who's going to implement it. And like what I mentioned earlier, also, it takes a village to do this, and a lot of partnerships. It's also an investment on the city, not just with a particular organization, but it takes the whole village to really come together and work on a particular vision. So it starts with that. What vision do you have for your city? And who are the main players that would have a say in this? And by coming together and agreeing to achieve this vision, no matter how big or small that would be, then our efforts can be aligned and it can be achieved.
Well, in the sense that we also involved art here. You know, we have a percent for art, as you know. It's when we did our tour in the United States, we also learned about percent for art, which comes from Los Angeles. So every developer actually puts a percent for art. So that's very good because you already have a funding mechanism. In other cases, the funding really comes completely new, like for parks. But believe you me, every developer knows that if you're not next to a park, it helps you rent your spaces. It helps you give a premium. You have very good, interesting figures of a percentage. We'd love to use that when we start asking for rent increases, but never mind. But having said that, parks are a great way of getting people to be involved. They feel that they can contribute greatly. And it's all about health. After the pandemic, all the different discussions about what you want to do, it's all about revolving on health. People will go to the office if they feel they are safe and protected. And if they can do it in a healthy way, if they can walk, and you know, the Philippines, sorry to answer, but in part of Urban Land Institute, when we were given a talk by so many mayors from all over the world. We had the at that time Boris Johnson gave a talk. We had the French mayor in Paris. The talk was this will be a big change for countries who have problem with diabetes, and you know we do have a big problem with diabetes, and walking is going to help that. And if you can prolong, at least for males, if you can work on obesity, it may be 5 years longer in your life if you walk every day. But I should follow what I say.
Thanks for the question. To scale up anything, you need a plan. You need a framework. I would say the first thing that will be needed is what is a business model for green areas? Because if they're not financially sustainable, it will be very difficult to develop green spaces. I think I made the case that green public spaces are good investments. They paid off. So we need a framework, a model that explains that and provides incentives for private sector to intervene in specific areas. But there needs to be a framework from the public sector that says this is the overall opportunity. These are the incentives. A very clear regulatory framework that allows the private sector to come in. Yeah, I would say that that's my take on that question.
Thank you. Any more questions from our group? Ah, yes. Landscape architect.
Hello, good morning. Good morning po. Norman po from the Philippine Association of Landscape Architects. So just to add to the answers given by our panelists, and it's a question po ni Sir. I acknowledge po the correct willpower, and of course it takes a village to create something. That's true. But also let's not forget technical expertise, because if these plans, if they're not implemented well on ground, they're just plans. So here I am standing in front of you now as a representative of landscape architects in the Philippines. So if ever you need technical expertise, please, I'd be more than willing to collaborate with you, with any LGU, with any NGO, with any agency, with the ADB, with BGC and everything. We are here to provide our expertise, or what we learned in school, and for a better community for everyone. And I thank you.
Thank you for the reminder of the importance of technical experts, especially in terms of developing green spaces. Actually, I have a question for my from myself. No, there is this uh, i- idea or connotation from people that landscape is just purely aesthetic. And I think that's one of the challenges why the maintenance budget is always the least priority in any development. So for I think that's one. Well, how do you convince the the developers that there is need to maintain whatever green spaces that we develop?
Um, um, Thanks for that. Actually, the lack of OPEX budget maintenance for public spaces, I think, is one of our greatest enemies. Um, First, we need to convince not developers. We need to convince political decision makers to make sure that there is a budget for public space maintenance, and we need to understand the importance of that specific budget. A very good friend of mine is the chief architect of Barcelona. You mentioned Barcelona. We know each other for 30 years, and we have frequent discussions about what is important about public spaces, and always OPEX, operational expenditure, budget for maintenance is absolutely critical. Now you're going to say local governments do not have money. Where does the OPEX come from? We've shown a number of ways whereby land value capture is one of the instruments that municipalities have. Get some of a percentage of that increase of value. This is why we need a business model and a framework, because otherwise, I agree that having a substantial amount of money for OPEX for municipalities is difficult. If there is a model, if there is a framework for consistent budget allocated to public spaces, I think that's a key way forward. And in just one more minute on the case of Barcelona, what the strategy that now the municipality has is that instead of building a large public space, building many small places, which adding up can have the same effect of a large public space. I mean, how many cities do you think they can fit 380 hectares like Manhattan did? That was possible in the 1800s, impossible now. So the strategy for Barcelona, for Manila, for cities that, global cities that are already mature, is to have a number of smaller places. But they have to be a system. It's not that they're different spaces. Together they have to make a system. That creates also better opportunities for different partnerships, like you have shown in our presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Pablo. Yes.
Well, I want to say that in the case of public art, in the case also of our landscaping. Thank you. I see Rose Palu here, so she maintains our linear park. So it's very important. Like very early on, we said, think about the maintenance, like we do buildings. We think about the maintenance of whatever you suggest because it might be great to build but hard to maintain. So we use indigenous plants. Thank you very much, Mr. Kepler. He always checks that all the plants we use are something that we can replace, etc. And it takes someone who is a member of the community to walk every day to notice which plants have to be replaced. So it's also personal involvement. If you put the park next to where people live, they will enjoy it and they will not only adopt, they will own the park. I mean, it's part of them.
Thank you. I think they have
Yes.
answered most of them already.
Thank you for answering my question. Any questions from our guest participants? Questions po? Do we have questions from our Zoom live? Yes, ma'am.
Good morning. My question po is addressed to Miss Carol Tobias Pobre. My question is, how do you encourage community participation in creating artworks in BGC? For example, how do you inspire or motivate them to take part in projects like the BGC Tunnel of Passion?
Thank you for that. The Tunnel of Passion was what we actually did at the BGC Art Center last year. It was actually not difficult, amazingly, when we did a call out for volunteers and participants to that. It was nice that it was part of the BGC Passion Fest. So there were really a lot of people who came to BGC at that time and who visited. It was part of a big festival. So there was music all around. So it's nice to build while there's a concert right behind. And there's also the BGC Art Mart all around. And so it was a nice family bonding activity for a lot of the participants who participated. We also had several groups, such as one of our partners for our bamboo project, the Base Bahay Foundation, who also came and helped build the bamboo tunnel with us. There were those who were passers-by, BG citizens, those who worked around the area and saw that we were building something. They would just come up and ask, what are you guys doing? Can we participate? And everybody was welcome. I think the main ingredient there is that the project did not require hard skills. Anybody can join. It was easy because using just bamboo splits, nuts and bolts, we were able to build the tunnel. So it did not require a lot of tools. We even had kids who participated with their parents, and the parents actually signed them up saying that I want my kids to be away from their iPad, and so I want them to build. And they said that they really appreciated these kinds of community projects that we had. And then when we interviewed the kid who participated, he said when he finally saw that the tunnel was finished, he was so proud and said, I am part of the people who built that tunnel. And I was with my dad and mom. So to me, it's a reminder of why we do what we do, and that is because of the community.
It's very wonderful.
Thank
Thank you very
you.
much, ma'am.
Any more questions? We can accommodate one last question before. Yes, ma'am.
Good morning. I am Myla Husay from National Parks Development Committee. My question is for Mr. Pablo. Earlier, you mentioned like the New York and being an urban jungle, yet having a lot of parks actually. So what we all wanted was to adapt this in Metro Manila. And about earlier in your slide, the scarcity of public space is stated that in Manila, in every person, we only have like 5 square meter per person, which is below the average. Like we should have at least 20 square meter per person. So in Manila, like realistically, we have scarcity in public spaces. So, are there any initiatives that we can adopt, like vertical planning? Because, horizontal planning is because we have scarcity, we can't adapt that anymore. Like, it's so hard to produce more spaces. So, are there any options that we can incorporate?
Thanks for the question, and thanks again to the committee for the invitation. Much appreciated. Um, Two sides of a question. One side is the management model, and the other one is the land model. Two different models. Right? The management model, you mentioned Center Park. I think 380 hectares in Manila is quite difficult to accommodate. Bryant Park model, smaller. I mean, talking about parks in New York. Bryant Park, smaller park, privately owned, privately developed, much possible management model for Manila. Second point, the land model. In one of my slides, we talked about the Pasig River corridor, where you have significant amount of underutilized industrial land. Just by rezoning 20% of that industrial land into public space, and then the rest of 80% for mixed-use development, which makes a lot of sense in many areas of the Pasig River, you could triple the amount of public space in that area. So that's one significant strategy that I would recommend, and we recommend the relevant stakeholders, including MMDA, issued in terms of guiding principles, MMDA in terms of the Green program and other programs that they're undertaking, and the local governments, which are let's not forget this, they are the responsible entity for deciding what gets built on land, because they produce the statutory plans. Yeah, so LGUs, critical stakeholder. So to sum up, the case we're making in the study that we're currently undertaking, which by the way will be finalized, let's hope first quarter of next year, March, and we'll post it up on ADB's website. So that's the Pasig River Public Space Framework, which we will have some concept design ideas and some of the economic model. But for us, again, public space corridor remains a huge opportunity for developing public spaces in Manila.
All right. We have one more question.
Ma'am, actually, it's a question from one of our participants in Zoom. So the question is from Miss Sarah May Renijen. Miss Sarah says, good morning. This is a question for everyone involved. If implemented nationwide, have you thought of methods to prevent people from vandalizing the parks and artworks introduced inside? How will you prevent vagrants from settling inside the parks?
Just like what I mentioned earlier in our presentation, it takes time. It takes time to initiate change. And while we want to instill in the people a sense of responsibility and ownership, it takes intention to put public art in certain locations. They are site specific, and that hopefully sparks change and their sense of ownership within the community, allowing them themselves to guard the parks and also the public art that are there. And that if they see people who would vandalize, they would be the stewards already of protecting these areas. While we do have our marshals in BGC, they cannot police everything 24/7. We have our systems in place, but it's not foolproof. But over time, when people see the value of what we do for the community and that it's for them, it will be able to spark change in behavior.
I think one thing we learned is shiny metal objects are a no-no. They don't last too.
Because they have value.
I completely agree with what's been said. The point that Carol made. It is impossible to have a parks police at a national level. There's no budget for that. And the point that you made, Carol, that making sure that there's public ownership of the public space, and those become the caretakers of public spaces. It's something that takes some maturity, but no one vandalizes Bryant Park and there's no police. No one vandalizes Central Park and there's no police. So it's about of making sure that communities are involved, especially at the time of thinking the space. So there's ownership from early on, and that will certainly help them being engaged in issues like caretaking.
I think another part of that question is actually migrant.
Thanks for that. Well, the bottom line of this is to have a good housing policy, because the problem is that people don't have anywhere to go, and therefore might use the opportunity provided at public space. So at large is to have a coherent housing policy that reduces the amount of people that have to live in informal conditions. In the short term, there might be risks of cases of encroachment, case of occupation. But I guess the important is to think what do you do? Do you not pursue public spaces because there's that risk, or you take on that risk and you think of mitigating it somehow, and also making sure that the relevant agencies at the different levels of government are engaged to look at the problem at the larger scope. I think that will be the case in many places. We've heard about Singapore. Singapore in 1965, the amount of settlers was tremendous, informal settlers. That's 60 years ago. So it can be done.
All right, thank you. If there are any more questions, yes.
Good morning. Good morning. My question is for Sir Pablo. Does ADB fund LGUs in development of a certain park, or how can an LGU partner or collaborate with ADB?
Thanks again. We're currently we have worked with the LGUs of Makati, Mandaluyong, Manila, Pasig, in a few technical meetings to understand the potential public spaces that are with the different municipalities. And now we're currently working with them, with these municipalities in developing some demonstration areas of public spaces with their technical departments. So that's how we are working with local governments. If you want to take that, if you are from a local government and want to take that question aside, we can do that after this.
They're from Palawan, Puerto Princesa. Yes. Any other questions from our? Yes, sir, from Tiesa.
I'm fine. Yeah, but I'd like to speak more as a student of the urban and regional planning. You mentioned about transit-oriented development a while ago. Unfortunately, the ASEC is no longer around. But I just want to ask this because uh, w- because of the car-centric model of development, we have expanded our highways to freeways, and then eventually we built also skyways, and we were expecting that building more skyways would also reduce traffic on the ground. And then now we are building underground um, trains, subways, and we will be building soon, like there will be NSCR, North-South Commuter Railways. So I'm just wondering, with all of these things coming soon, would we see EDSA, like for example, to be reclaimed by non-motorized transport or so that it will be more walkable, and then there will be more mobility? Or would the forecast be it will be the same in terms of traffic? Like, because of all these developments, will there be a reduction, like in terms of the cars that will be bought, or people buying cars? Because the expectation is public transport should be more efficient, and then you have TOD, so it will be a disincentive for people to be buying their own cars, because public transport will be more efficient and would be reliable to go to their destinations. That is the assumption, right? So if that is the case, our how many lanes in EDSA? Like both lanes, probably 16. So can we reclaim part of EDSA, for example, to be completely for non-motorized transport, like bikes? Or are there already models like abroad that have implemented this, or that the people reclaim the major freeways because public transport has become more efficient, like underground or overground?
I think the best person to answer this is Asik Kabuchan. Unfortunately, he's not here with us anymore. But I think the question maybe how can we relate it to other countries? Do they have models where their major thoroughfares were reclaimed to be green spaces instead?
Thanks for this. And TS are very important. I know that you spoken about from a different perspective, but we've made the point that green public spaces and tourism are very interrelated. And of course, when there was plans of removing that motorway, people said this is going to be traffic chaos. The removal of the motorway has proven that traffic is elastic and is demand induced, meaning now traffic is better than before. Because of course that has been supplemented with specific public transport interventions. So there are that in Vancouver, Chicago, there are a number of cases that you can look at for reduction of motorways and transforming that into green infrastructure. But of course, the reduction of motorways, people still have to go to work. So they need to be complemented by investment in mass transport. I'm not a traffic engineer. I cannot respond about the number of lanes in ETSA. I cannot make those calculations right now. But there's a lot of conversation groups. I'm sure you're part of those that talk about the potential greening of ETSA, reducing the number of cars to provide more space for walking and cycling, which is much needed not only in ETSA but all across Manila.
All right. Thank you to our speakers and to everyone who participated in the Q&A. We will now proceed with the awarding of plaques to our plenary speakers. May we call on stage NPDC Executive Director Cecil A. Lorenzana Romero and NPDC Deputy Executive Director Jasril Gaius A. Apilar to award the plaques. Awarding the plaque of appreciation to Ms. Carol Tobias Pobre, Exhibit Manager of Bonifacio Art Foundation, Inc. NPDC awards a plaque of appreciation to Urban Development Specialist Mr. Pablo Vagioni. Last but not the least, NPDC awards the plaque of appreciation to Mr. Charlie S. Rufino, President of NEO. All together, all of our speakers, please. Thank you so much to all our plenary speakers. At this point, we will have a 10-minute wellness break for everyone. Coffee and snacks are available at the Mind Pod 1, just outside. And we'll be back after 10 minutes.
Good day, everyone. May I remind every May I remind everyone that there is no eating and drinking inside the plenary hall. May I invite everybody to please come inside the plenary hall. May I invite everyone to return to the plenary hall. And may I remind everyone that there is strictly no eating and drinking inside the plenary hall.
Thank you.
May I invite everyone outside to please return to the main plenary hall. And eating and drinking inside the plenary hall is strictly prohibited.
Thank you.
While waiting for others to return to the main plenary hall, let's just acknowledge the attendance of the following organizations that attended the whole 3 days of the Park Congress: Architects for Accessibility, Ayala Land Premier Inc., Balayong People's Park Management, LGU Puerto Princesa City, City Government of Puerto Princesa, Office of the City Architect, City Government of Puerto Princesa, Office of the City Mayor, Basis Conversion and Development Authority, BCDA, Bureau of Plant Industry, Caloocan City Government, Senro Pasig, City of Imus, City Tourism Office of San Jose del Monte, Clark Development Corporation, DA, NUPAP, and DABPI, DNR Ecosystems Research and Development Bureau, DNR ERDB, THWRDEC, DNR NCR, Department of Agriculture, National Urban and Peri-Urban Agriculture Program, Department of Human Settlements and Urban Development Region 8, Department of Human Settlements and Urban Development, Department of Justice, DPWH NCR, DPWH CAR, Escuela Taller de Filipinas Foundation Inc., Fort Bonifacio Development Corporation, House of Representatives, and House of Representatives Special Committee on Land Use, HR Travel and Tours, Intramuros Administration, Lakisap, Landscape Architects, LGU, Caloocan City, Local Government Unit of Ibajay, Local Government Unit of Makati, Local Government Unit of City of San Jose del Monte, McDonald's Philippines, Metropolitan Manila Development Authority, MMDA, TIEZA, National Commission for Culture and the Arts, National Historical Commission of the Philippines, Museo ng Katipunan and Museo ni Marcelo H. del Pilar, also Museo ni Jose Rizal Fort Santiago. We also have Pasig Senro, PALA, or the Philippine Association of Landscape Architects, Provincial Government of Bulacan and their ENRO, Provincial Government of La Union, ENRO, Quezon City Parks Development and Administration Department, Quezon City LGU, Terraclima Technologies, Theosophical Society in the Philippines, Tourism Infrastructure and Enterprise Zone Authority, or TIEZA, UAP, University of Asia and the Pacific, UP Diliman, UP Diliman College of Agriculture, Planades, Philippine Air Force, Department of Health, RevLev Solutions Inc., NEO Philippines, DOTR, Arellano University, JSA Inc., University of the East. So once again, thank you for all the participants and delegates who attended this 3-year Parks Congress. At this point, welcome back. Okay na ba lahat? Nakapag-coffee, nakapag-stretch? Okay na po? Hindi na po tayo inaantok? Because we are nearing our end of the Congress. But we will first hear the presentation of our workshop moderators, the workshop that was facilitated yesterday. I was able to visit all 3 workshops yesterday, and I was really glad, and it was a heartwarming experience to see all of you, all of the participants really be passionate and really involved in developing what is needed for our green spaces. So for the first speaker, we have landscape architect Norman June Brito to discuss the workshop results representing the environmental and nature-based sector.
Oh, am I audible?
Yes.
Very good. So I'll be using the Philippine Parks Congress notebook for this synthesis, just to prove that I did not use ChatGPT. All right, so to give you a brief background of what happened yesterday during the session on the environmental workshop, the session started with a brief overview by Dr. Bimbao regarding the flow and expected output for the afternoon, of course. Participants were then tasked with generating metacards from the provided sticky notes. The first task was quite simple: to identify a communal activity and put it under the type of park where it is most suitable to be performed. The following landscape categories were identified. Number 1, there's the primitive landscapes, that's untouched natural landscapes. Number 2, we have the semi-primitive landscapes, which are divided into 2. The unmotorized semi-primitive landscapes with access to vehicles without motor engines, and the motorized semi-primitive landscapes with access naman to vehicles with motor engines. We also have the roaded natural, which are thoroughfares that offer scenic views. The rural landscapes, which are accessible areas with moderate to high development use, and the urban areas with super accessible and high density and high impact facilities and services. This session is complemented by a new set of metacards discussing and enumerating dangers, conflicts, challenges, hindrances, opportunities, and expectations in different landscapes. Following this was a brief lecture and workshop on the recreation opportunity spectrum that aims to tackle the physical, managerial, and social aspects of each type of landscape development. In addition to the 6 identified landscapes, 2 more contemporary examples were added, the Rizal Park and Bonifacio Global City. Participants were grouped randomly to discuss a specific type of landscape according to the recreation opportunity spectrum. The ROS is a planning framework representing a continuum of experiences from highly developed areas to remote wilderness to help manage land by providing a diverse range of opportunities for visitors with different preferences. I will breeze you through some key points discussed by groups from yesterday's workshop. For the group that analyzed primitive landscapes, the representative cheerfully identified their group as the group that adopts the ridge to reef approach. As the group is composed of foresters, landscape architects, and marine biologists who are all knowledgeable in ridges and reefs. The group designated to examine semi-primitive landscapes followed. This group is composed of foresters, architects, agriculturists, and park administrators. Most activities identified by both groups, the primitive group and the semi-primitive group, are similar, concentrated on low to no impact activities such as camping, hiking, native tree walks, bird watching, and forest bathing. The most significant difference between the group reports is the degree of strictness or implementation of activities. For example, campers should not be allowed to light bonfires and no wandering away from nature trails for the primitive landscapes to preserve the high degree of solitude and biodiversity in the area. The semi-primitive team, the team that tackled the semi-primitive category touched more on the supplementary infrastructure that aims to support low impact to moderate activities. Of course, the infrastructure should also be low impact, such as the incorporation of non-invasive foundations, simple view decks, permeable pavement wherever necessary, and paved for those with moderate pedestrian and possible vehicular circulation and access. Moving forward with the team focused on rural landscapes that is composed of professionals and local government unit representatives, the report highlighted the importance of proper zoning, leading us to a more complex and macro level lens. Active zones are expected to cater to a wide variety of physical activities, such as walking, jogging, cycling, multifunctional spaces that may be used by students for practice, and of course, for Zumba. In the same breath, passive zones are dedicated for relaxation, for dates, for maritesan, and of course for sunbathing, as the reporter lovingly joked that they are included in the generation that's consistently been exposed to the sun, or in Tagalog, naaarawan pa. Urban areas are not that different from rural counterparts in terms of physical and managerial opportunities, with slight variations in scope and complexity, as dictated by access to resources. The urban group is composed of agricultural engineers, architects, foresters, and geographers, and this is the group that focused on discussing universal accessibility to shared spaces, noting the increasing diversity of users in urban areas. In short, the 5 A's: accessibility for all ages and abilities. Curious to note that central to both the rural and urban areas is the managerial concern of security, the opportunity to increase authority visibility, and the use of CCTVs. It can then be inferred that as the number of users rise, the level of security should also follow. We now go to the team who analyzed the opportunities for the Bonifacio Global City. Now that the discussion is site-specific, the concerns have also significantly shifted. The group was guided with the question, what can we add when Region C already has everything? Diba? Turns out that there are still some. Some opportunities that we can look into, such as the provision of more specific areas for more specific needs. For example, a skate park to cater to the rising population of skaters in the area, and perhaps an urban forest that is less manicured and more natural, as to espouse a forest bathing experience that is directly accessible to the public. Ideas of integrating nature-based solutions to supplement the underground water collection system of BGC were also showcased. Um, On the managerial side, a study on foot traffic in the morning and at night should be processed, as this will have an impact in administration and future spatial programming, as mentioned by the group presenters. Finally, the Luneta Rizal Park was also presented. The group is composed of representatives from DNR, the local government units, the MMDA, and the Armed Forces of the Philippines. Again, since this is more site-specific, the issues and opportunities are also more site-centric. Perhaps the most infamous topic to come to light in this session is the national photo bomber. The national photo bomber. The group was very adamant in reclaiming sightlines. So a nod to visual resource management, which can be used as a tool for planning by considering resources such as natural landforms, seascapes, vistas, and views into the master site development plan of any proposed developments. Concerns about the provision of potable water fountains and accessibility to clean, usable, and gender-neutral restrooms arose, together with stricter enforcement of crowd control protocols and waste management, seeing that the Rizal Park sometimes acts as a catchment for demonstrations emanating from the Carino Grandstand. A point-to-point shuttle service to nearby key areas such as the Paco Park, the Intramuros, Araceras Forest Park, and the museums were also suggested. But finally, the group stressed to reclaim the Luneta Rizal Park as both a park to rightfully commemorate our national hero and to be a people's park. To wrap up the workshop, Dr. Bimbao left the participants with a few points to ponder. Number one, access to what? We're always supposed to design for our uses and for specific spaces. This workshop highlighted that not all landscapes are created the same, and they should also not be treated the same. So always ask that. Access to what? Provisions for whom? These are the questions you should ask first. Next, primitive landscapes also need protection. We are very exposed to urban areas and probably rural and peri-urban areas, but the primitive landscapes, the untouched ones, let's keep them untouched. There's a reason for that. In recreation, there is always a place for everything. And finally, urban settings are very, very complex. So it will take more than one session to actually address issues in the urban platform. And that's it for my synthesis. This is Norman Brito, and I thank you.
Thank you, landscape architect Norman, for the very insightful summary of the workshop. Our second speaker to discuss the infrastructure sector is architect Edward Bulario.
Okay, good morning. So again, very well said, landscape architect Norman. I don't know how I could come after that presentation. So for my segment, this is the infrastructure sector. Now, when we talk about infrastructure and parks, there's a gray line. Because when we talk about parks, we think about trees, open spaces. Then when we talk about infrastructure, it's heavily hinged on gray infrastructure like drainage, flood control, whatnot, road systems. So for the workshop, I started to ground the participants on why infrastructure matters in terms of parks. So as prompted, infrastructure focuses on how built systems, transport systems, circulation, and universal access shape the everyday experience of parks. Now, it's stated here, so infrastructure determines how people reach parks, how they move within parks, and how they can rest, participate, and enjoy park functions. And also, of course, the aspect of safety, legibility, and wayfinding and inclusivity. These facets actually attribute to the urban rhythm of different end users. Second, parks are not isolated landscapes. They are infrastructure-dependent public spaces that rely on these urban systems, which are pedestrian networks, shade and microclimate structures, wayfinding systems, transport systems, universal accessibility features, and connectivity. So basically, what we're saying is that parks are not a standalone development. Parks are not just third spaces. Parks are part of a much larger macro urban environment. Now, to ground them further on what policies and what um, design interventions they could provide, so we ground them on these principles. So first, park depend on quality of their edges. So that was also explained earlier by our resource speakers. So the experience begins at the boundary. If park boundaries are unsafe or poorly designed, people will not enter. Then the photo here, this is in Lawton. Um, it's transit oriented. There's an FX terminal, but nobody goes in it because the edges are not safe. The edges are hostile. Next, the second principle is that pedestrian priority is a national equity issue, wherein um, vulnerable groups, senior citizens, children's PWD, depend on walkable infrastructure, but we have to stress on the aspect of rest. So it's not about being walkable, it's about providing avenues for rest also. Next, mobility is more than just transportation. It's about freedom of movement, dignity, and equal access. There's an aspect of autonomy. And when we talk about autonomy, just what uh, the Neo president was saying about walking, it reduces uh, or it prolongs your life, diba? When you talk about diabetes. And that concept is linked on blue zones when you talk about Japan and Okinawa. So other types of micromobilities should also be factored in when we design for public spaces, and it should be married with the first mile and the last mile concept that Yusek Kabuchan was talking about. Next, so this is heavily hinged on the DOTR's initiatives that infrastructure must marry transport and public space. So transport nodes must lead through parks, not block them. So echoing again with Asek Kabuchan, so what is built should be connected on how people live. Now for the workshop, basically since it's infrastructure, we conducted park audit. So the first part would be hinged on policies. The second would be for interventions. So for the policies, it was hinged on these indicators that is relative to accessibility and mobility. So for the case of BGC parks, it's a modern district with integration of smart systems, open spaces, but there are also comfort gaps identified. So for BGC, these are the following issues: inconsistent connections between parks, uneven shading and microclimate comfort, gaps in park to terminal links, inconsistent pedestrian realm standards between blocks, and the need for district-wide wayfinding coherence. Because as mentioned earlier, the whole of BGC is a grid and it's a circular pattern, no? So for me, at the end user's point of view, at first it was very confusing for me to navigate. Now, what BGC requires is a green corridor system linking all parks, continuous tree canopy, and shaded spines, and the aspect of digital innovation, so the digital married with physical wayfinding integration and improved connections from bus terminals. So ultimately, the BGC's core challenge is stitching together multiple high-quality parks into a unified network. So for the second part of the workshop, this is actually the plan that we were talking about earlier. So the vision is to have the whole high street to become Bonifacio Green Corridor. So the space would be reclaimed just like the super block concept in Barcelona. So wherein we have avenues such as the Supremo landmark, they'll be transferring it in front and in center across the existing market. to have monumentality kasi currently it's situated in Rizal Drive, but the person there is Bonifacio, right? Second, green bridges to connect outside the high street. Smart features featuring smart canopies during summer or heat with the high heat index. And the first and last mile concept with the proposed loading and unloading zones. Now, in the case of Rizal Park, it's heavily hinged on policies because, as we know, there are a lot of stakeholders in place governing the Rizal Park. So their main issues are fragmented pedestrian circulation, vehicular dominance on Taft, Calao, and Burgos areas, the lack of coordinated management between NPDC and LGUs, and even cultural institutions, large open grounds with high heat exposure because a lot of the areas are just open spaces, unorganized parking, loading zones, and redundant physical clutter. As aspirations, we require a unified accessibility master loop across all of those thematic parks, integrated transport nodes such as the LRT to the park loop, the gateways and threshold design to strengthen identity. National Parks Authority, lastly, a National Parks Authority law to stabilize governance to strengthen the mandate of NPDC to overrule all other agencies. Now, for the plan, you can see there's a central loop and it's leading outwards to the different districts of Manila, connecting the parks now as a system as well to the different vicinities and districts. So ultimately, with the Rizal Parks Core Challenge is to reconnect fragmented heritage estate to a coherent public space. So these are just a comparative analysis of those indicators. But ultimately, for a cross-park recommendation, first we have to create a standardized national mobility framework for parks. Second, to establish continuous accessible loops. Integrate transport nodes into park edges. Fourth is to strengthen microclimate design as a response. Then fifth is to rationalize edges and to implement governance reforms ultimately. So in conclusion, our workshop underscores the vital role of green networks in enhancing urban environments. By prioritizing parks, fostering community connections, and creating accessible pathways, we can promote not only ecological sustainability but also social well-being. As we move forward, let's commit to urban spaces that are not just functional but also vibrant and inclusive for all. So this is the group for the BGC and the Rizal group. So they're here also. So that's it for our workshop. Thank you.
Thank you, Architect Bulario. Imagine we only did this workshop for half a day and there were already plans and all those listings of the policies. Imagine what we can do if we had more time. Moving forward, we have our last speaker to discuss the workshop results for the tourism sector, Dr. Engineer Tabasam Rasa of Planades.
Thank you. Can I ask Angel, not the guardian angel, okay? My glasses, no? Yeah, here. There. And my, it's okay. I can look there. Hmm. So our workshop theme is workshop on developing park accessibility and mobility. And the sector is tourism. So it was not very difficult for me to conduct this workshop because the participants were very well aware. What are the problems? I just need to validate yes, yes, and yes. And then, sorry. So I just led them, I guided them how they can affirm what we are seeking to achieve in the objectives. So may I go to the next slide, please? So this is the team, organizing team for this workshop. Uh, Here is on the right side is Professor Dr. Mark Anthony Morales. He is the president of the Planetas. And then you're truly is on the right side, the most handsome guy in that office. And don't tell to Dr. Morales, otherwise we will have make alabana. Huh? So then we have a Zeni, our object office, and then we have Angel. A while ago you saw him. And yesterday, Rosaline Edmund support was there. Next, please. So synthesis for the workshop on developing park accessibility and mobility under the tourism sector. Next, please. So these are the existing barriers for connectivity and mobility. We call out these barriers from different published papers, and we find out these are the factors. If we need to know what is the real situation in the Rizal Park, we need to cover these areas, these features. And then these features include traffic congestions and vehicular dominance. Hopefully all of you have passed through the Taft Avenue. And it's very easy to pass, right? You see, people are laughing because it's very easy to pass the Taft Avenue. So your curiosity to know that it's not easily possible. Why? Because there are a lot of congestions there. There is a dominancy of the all kind of mode of transportation. If you talk about, let's say, trucks, oh, they are there, huh? You talk tricycle, Meronjan tricycle. Pedestrian, yes. Car, yes. Taxi, yes. Kalesa, yes. Tonga, they are. Oh, yes. Thank you. So you can expand the list as much as you like. And there are hubble also, you know. So what we call them mode of transportation. The segregation of the mode of transportation and its implementation is very, very significant to make sure that we don't have congestion. Traffic is not a problem because everywhere there is traffic, means mode of transportation is there. What is the problem? The movement of that traffic is not constant and regular. Once it's not constant, it congests. And what are the consequences? You know already. One of the consequences is if I want to come from Quezon City to Rizal Park with my family, I will think 3 times. One, I will think Santo Domingo, choking point. It will take me 30 minutes there. The second one, Quiapo, another 30 minutes there. And then Taft Avenue, another 30. So if I have a plan to reach to Rizal Park, I need 1 hour, 30 minutes to just reach there, the distance of 11 kilometers. Is it right? So I will not be magnet toward Rizal Park because of the accessibility, connectivity, and delay in my travel time. So next one is about pedestrian safety and unsafe crossing. Yesterday, during my workshop, I showed them some of the spots at United Nations Taft Avenue where you can see the aggregate of all those kind of mode of transportation, and people are even running on the pedestrian and there is nobody to control. It was just to highlight the problem. And our group number 1, may I know if they are around? Raise your hand. Please, group number 1. Yeah, these are the gentlemen. Group number 1 diagnose it very well that there is really a big problem in pedestrians. And they have made some recommendations. Now, group number 2, we have also, they have highlighted more on the accessibility or universal accessibility. Ramps for senior citizens. Then the one group was more on fragmentation. And then finally, we have these cultural barriers and others. I will go into the next part. Next, please. So this is the main essence. And now you can see the guy there. which you are seeing now. It's the same guy. Just like minus only glasses, okay? So we have these 4 groups, and I gave them first a lecture on, although our screen was very small, but we make sure that it is visible to everyone, the group of 50 peoples. And then each and every table was provided with a zoom in map of the Rizal Park and zoom out map which shows the museum, our National Museum. In front of National Museum, we have for our golf course, its ponds, its green areas, and then the real fort, the wall of the fort, which is on the map. And I asked them to let me know if you are visiting National Museum and you want to reach to Rizal Park, what are the hurdles there? What are the obstacles you find? And across all those barriers, which barriers are available? Now, if you see on the tables, there are different kind of color, papers or sticky tapes. So they are color coded with the barriers. So they will just stick it wherever the locations. And after that, what we do next? So working session of groups next. So that's how they do it. So this is group 1. Next, this is group 2. And you notice that they have group 3, group 4. So all groups have similar exercise. And then next, then we have a brainstorming session. And in brainstorming session, we ask them some questions on the board, and we get their inputs, and these are already incorporated in the synthesis, final synthesis. I will take 2 more minutes, huh? But keep in your mind, don't show me that card. It's very important. Next. Now, this is synthesis. Next, for 4 groups. Now, that's why I need 2 minutes, because I would like to highlight the effort which all 4 groups had put in to come up with integrated, suggested remedial strategies. So we have barriers, we have key location identified, and then we have corresponding remedial strategies. So if you see the first one, traffic congestions and vehicular dominance, these are the main prominent area: Rojas Boulevard, TM Kalau, City Hall, and LRT UN area. Intersection near National Museum, Intramuros, Japanese Garden, and Port area connected round about near Carino Grandstand. So you can visualize already the entire area around you, and you went with your family and you want to view it like Singapore. You go there, there is a cylindrical tube in which there either, when you go to airport, there is a walk rails. You just stand on that, and then you can visual both sides, the entire view of the Manila, and you can take pictures. So that will bring you around and stop somewhere where it's needed. Elevator, kahit kayo matanda, kahit bata, pwede naman dyan drop out. Oh, sorry for the foreigners. Mahirap naman English, di ba? Dugo naman yung... Sige, let's go back to the tune to the FM English, okay? So the second one is pedestrian safety and unsafe crossing. This is very, very important part where our PW, where our children, special people in wheelchairs, they don't have ramps there. That's why there is a unfragmented or fragmented pathways. They cannot pass through. When I used to go to Japan previously, I get my bag from the airport and I roll it up to my hotel. I never find a place where I have to pick up my bag. So that's what we want here in Rizal Park. If a guy with his motor wheelchair come from the first entrance up to the grandstand, he should not looking for a way where I have to go. Thank you. Next one. Yeah, we have a signage gap. Signage gap means there are not proper signages inside. Even if I come from the, you need to magnet it for other cities. Let's say somebody want to come from Tagaytay. When he go out of the Tagaytay, there should be board, very visible, with nice advertisement that, hey, come to Rizal Park, Luneta Park, right? So signages are not there, which lead them from different station toward the Rizal Park. Then you have lack of universal access. We have already discussed about it, that they need to install universal ramp, tactile pavings, and hard rails. PWD friendly entries, solar power accessible tourist rest station. There is a lack of rest station in Rizal Park. It says, don't walk on the green. Don't sit on the green. And then where they will sit now? Provide them some rest area with nice architectural design. They can enjoy that. Then we have also fragmented pedestrian, and the group, all groups integratively said that they develop continuous green pedestrian corridors to improve the per capita green spaces for Filipinos. And next, the last one is cultural, institutional exclusion, mobility divide, that we need to know that everybody can access to that place, regardless of jeepney, tricycle, cart, wheelchair. So these are culturally and ethically bounded social values which we need to attach. Intramuros golf course restricted areas. These are the mostly locations where there are too much congestion, and we need this to be done. Yesterday, I have shown you some of the examples of these areas. So, incorporate universal design in cultural venues, ramps, inclusive programs, adopt participatory planning to uplift marginalized sector. So, a while ago, somebody presented with their group. I don't know, I haven't stolen your idea of last slide. Next slide. Yeah, this is our own created, okay? So sometimes minds match. And that's why. So thank you very much. This is the group. Give big round of applause to the group.
Thank you, Dr. Engineer Raza. And if you would notice the three presentations, a lot of them, especially for the topics in Rizal Park and BGC, a lot of them are interconnected. 3 different teams who did all of this workshop, half a day, and still we got almost synchronized results. So we'll give this time the opportunity for question and answer portion to our presenters. So I would like to call once again on stage Architect Bolario, Landscape Architect Brito, and Alisa, and Dr. Engineer Rasa. Please, for a short Q&A session. So, I know everyone joined the workshop yesterday. Do you have any questions from the syntheses, from the results that were mentioned? Yes, Sir Pablo.
Thanks. Thank you for the very interesting summaries. I have a couple of questions, actually. Sorry, I'm just looking at my pictures here. On the presentation on infrastructure, on your recommendations, you mention as point 6, implement governance reforms, and then you say Rizal Park strengthen NPDC mandate. I'm going to ask you if you could elaborate on what does that mean and who would implement it. And I have a follow-up question for Dr. Raza, if I may. This has to do with your question this morning. Dr. Raza, on a slide you've mentioned open restricted priority spaces like golf course on select days. Someone from TSI is here, so that question might be of interest to them. How was discussed in your group issues of encroachment, invasion of space, potential misuse of a historical asset. Was that part of the discussion? Thanks.
Yes, so to answer the first question about the mandate of NPDC, basically it's the law that was stipulated that they are the ones to oversee Rizal Park and Paco Park and other assigned parks to them. But currently what's happening is that different cultural agencies, different entities, even TIEZA has involvement in the Rizal Park area. So if there are multiple stakeholders, absolutely there would be different takes, different objectives. So what we were recommending is to have a sole um, governing body. But for that to happen, of course, the law must be amended. So basically, that's still resonating that there should be political willpower to do that.
I think for context alone, the map that was showed, the three sectors of the map of Luneta Park is actually uh, handled by three different agencies. So that's why it's the whole Rizal Park. So I think that's where the issue in terms of authority or the how we can better handle the situation since there are a lot of stakeholders involved. For the second question, sir.
I'd like to add, since I'm also from the government under the Land Bank of the Philippines, what another option that we could do is to have a memorandum of understanding between all of those parties to set guidelines on the roles of each and every one and to set developmental controls as to achieve that unified park facility.
So, covering the question regarding the encroachment of informal settlers, nearby there is no informal settler within the premises. However, if you will go toward the what you call that from Taft Avenue toward the Intramuros, and after Intramuros there are encroachments. And we have a vandalism there in the outside the Rizal Park, and I showed them yesterday some photos that need to be also addressed. And for that purpose, you have three. The policy is fragmented. It's not coherence at the moment. And as explained, that there are three sections. I call them fragment, and then there is a three fragment policies, and they need to coherence. And then there should be also, as I said, that marginalized people should also be involved in the planning, because if you go on the left side toward the Mubini area, there is lot of encroachment, and they are just a walking distance from the Rizal Park. And on the left, if Rizal Park grandstand is in front of me, for example, the left side near the Mubini and National Library, there is a big influx of vendors and people who are living beside the road with their carts. So sometimes these people also move their carts and go beside the Rizal Park for the livelihood, for asking visitors or tourists to give them some money. So that is the only thing we have seen. And then the group number 4 emphasize that they are the one basically managing the park. Group 3 and Group 4 in my workshop, and they explain that there is need for redevelopment of the area. They are very much aware about the problems, and they are working on it.
Does that answer your question, sir?
You can ask.
Nanjiani?
You can ask. You can specify. Then I can answer.
Repeating what was said in the workshop, I think that it's a larger question that we're dealing with, and we just wanted to hear the opinions of the different people. Particularly interested, in potential use of the golf course for more of a public space. Yeah.
So it's there are encroachments, especially from the Heritage Park. There is a Heritage Park inside the Rizal Park, and from that Heritage Park, there are encroachment on the side of the roads. They are not informal settlers; they are informal walkers or movers who come with their house. I mean, they are like gypsies, and they are not one or two. They are many, and they have their carts, and everything is in the cart. They will stop wherever they like. They are movable, informal. Uh, they have their mobile phones also. So restrictedly, intramuros, yes, there are informal settlers within the intramuros who have access to golf court, and you can see around the golf court, especially Sunday, there is a vandalism going on there. So more specifically to that area, yes, there are. Especially if you go to, if you see in front of you is Natural Museum, Diba. So on the left side of the Natural Museum, there is already abundant parking place after the city hall. Yes, that is used to be park and ride area near the theater. Now that total place is held by informal people. I mean, there are clusters there. You can find them, and they keep on moving. When the police come, they will move. When police not there, they are there. So these kind of small pockets are there, but there is no real threat of a informal settler, mean a special settled people in one place, whom you have to remove. That is not available there. But these people are around there. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Any more questions from our participants? Yes, sir.
Good morning. This question is addressed to Dr. Raza. Engineer Carlo from NPDC. Dr. Raza, what park model can you recommend to Rizal Park in order to address the cited existing mobility barriers?
Yesterday, it's not my suggestion only, but our group has a, if you see, if you read our recommendation, they include each and every barriers recommendation. And the most important is that you need to cover everything in one chart. And that one chart is, it can cover PW, your senior citizen, children, and other people, just to provide a connected one path around the park. And it can be elevated and it can be transparent, and where there is a walkway going on electrical, and there is stations, like there is no need for running a tram. Run a, like airport, you have a walkers, so those walkers will be good enough. And each fragment or section, there are the most important part is the connectivity of three sections, and there are major roads between that. Between the grandstand and between the monument of Rizal, this is 4 lane one side and 4 lane other side road. So can you imagine how hard it is to cross it? And there is no underpass or elevated bridge in that area. So this one solution can connect to Intramuros. Also, then that same solution, it is a continuous loop, will bring you everywhere, even museum. And from there is already, we have Esplanade. So they can, from there, they can walk toward the Esplanade. So it will be a loop trip from previous, our, what you call that? Post office, near post office. You can ride it there. You go along the Intramuros and go toward the museum and then Heritage Park, from there China Park, then Japanese Park, up to Grandstand, and come back from there up to the Taft Avenue. That is a wholesome approach you can adopt. The rest, maintenance and CRs you need to provide on the ground. There are lack of CRs, comfort rooms, and sitting arrangements, and connecting paths. So that one is up, but immediately you can connect the fragmented part, and ramps you need. And there are some, obstacles which can be movable. When there is some wheelchairs want to come, they can, those pillars can go down, otherwise they can. And there should be also one of the suggestions that you should have between the section pole where senior citizen or wheelchair or specially needed people can touch and they can hear the sound, and the barrier that you cannot pass the road yet. Once it's clear, you can pass the road. Those kind of suggestions came from my workshop groups. So thank you for the group's suggestions.
All right, thank you. One last question. Anyone from our participants or Zoom participants? All right, if there are no more questions, again, everyone, let's give ourselves a round of applause. These are our results. Thank you for your active participation. At this point, we shall move on. Sorry.
Sorry for interruption. One very important part was that the transparent tube you will make, it should be like a green bridge. So it should be a green bridge tube where they can see outside, and the people who are watching them there, they can see green. Sorry, that was a very important element which we missed. Sorry.
All right, thank you. Now, may we call on NPDC Executive Director Cecil Lorenzana Romero and NPDC Deputy Executive Director Jesril Gayos Ea Pilar to join us on stage to award the plaques to our presenters. So awarding our plaque of appreciation is awarded to Dr. Engineer Tabasa Mrasa of the Planning and Development Research Foundation in Planades. Last but not least, an award of plaque of appreciation to Architect Edward Bolario of the United Architects of the Philippines, UAP. One photo with everyone, please. Thank you. We further request NPDC Executive Director Cecil Lorenzana Romero and NPDC Deputy Executive Director Jesril Gayos to remain on stage as we also award our plate to our co-presenter organization who made this 4th Philippine Parks Congress a success. At this point, we request the representative of Bonifacio Global City Estate Association, Executive Director Jaime Francisco T. Galvez Jr. Big round of applause for BG Seiya, our co-presenter. Gutom na kayo? Oh, wait lang. Di pa tayo tapos. Last na. At this point, we will announce the winners of special prizes. I've been reminding this to you yesterday for the shared creative Instagram stories with their key takeaways, as selected by the Philippine Parks Congress Committee. For our winners, we have two. We call the handlers of the following Instagram accounts at Embolario, which is, I think, Architect Edward Bolario, and at Ako si Ariel, Miss or Sir Ariel de Jesus. Oh, Sir, sorry. Yes, yeah. Congratulations to our winners, and thank you for sharing your creative entries. And to formally close the 4th Philippine Parks Congress, please welcome back the Executive Director of the National Parks Development Committee, Ms. Cecil A. Lorenzana Romero. Please give her a round of applause.
Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon na ba? Yes, good afternoon. Kasi after to lunch. Okay, as we conclude this year's 4th Philippine Parks Congress, allow me to express my gratitude to all of you. To our dedicated organizers whose hard work made this event possible, National Parks Development Committee's Philippine Park Congress Committee, the Clark Development Corporation, and the Bonifacio Global City Estate Association, BGCEA. I would also like to thank all of you for your active participation throughout the 3-day event, and especially our distinguished speakers for generously sharing your knowledge, insights, and inspiration on this year's topic. Director Seya's presentation gave us an overview of the work that they do in BGC. VP Kenneth told us about BCDA's vision of One Clark. Landscape architect Irene's linking of green spaces to promote biodiversity. Forrester Palak's statement of the 330-300 rule, which will make us look out of our windows if we have 3 trees that we can see every day. Of course, architect Joe Bim's mobility, time, promoting walkability and bikeability. Carol also emphasized breathing art into the city. And Pablo making the case that green public spaces should be developed and considered as critical assets to achieve higher quality of life. I think that goes for all of our spaces, wherever we are. And as Joanna aptly put it, well-maintained parks gains votes. So let's try to see if this will work. Okay, ASEC Manuel also discussed the initiatives of the DOTR and how it will transform also at least our transportation, hopefully. And our former boss, a visionary, Mr. Charlie Rufino, highlighting how communities created the BGC Greenway. So if they can do it, I think we can also do it in our own respective spaces. Diba? Working together, making big plans, aiming high, we can achieve many great things. All of your contributions have given us much food for thought, and I hope that we can also be working together to linking all of our green spaces together. So that's the aim, the theme of this Congress. Green networks, parks, pathways, and people has reminded us of our shared responsibility in creating and strengthening these green networks. As we leave here today, I hope that we get to apply all of the things that we learned. We have to transform dialogue into action. Using science-based, evidence-based approaches, we can transform many of our open spaces in our own communities into green spaces that can be enjoyed by everyone. So even though common sense is not that common anymore, I think, let us keep having conversations about parks and green spaces going. These are conversations worth having. Thank you all for being here, and we look forward to seeing you again next year. It's our 5th, so hopefully it will be a special 5th Parks Congress next year. Okay, good day.
Thank you, Edie. Ladies and gentlemen, that concludes the plenary program of the 4th Philippine Parks Congress. This has been your host and moderator for the past 2 days. I'm Joanna Hardinil of JSA. Thank you for your participation in building green networks. But please stay with us and be back at 1:30 here at the auditorium for the BGC study tour. So we'll be able to visit the parks here in BGC. Lunch is now served at the special exhibition hall in the first floor. Enjoy your lunch, everyone. Thank you.